What is up, everyone? Today I'm going to be doing a pretty quick run through of a mini sketchbook tour, trying to really show how I've been using squares lately in my construction, or more boxy figures, cubes, whatever you want to call them, rectangles. And I have really found this to start becoming effective for me in trying to really place my characters in perspective, place them into environment, and get everything set up. So diving right into the sketchbook here, we're going to run through this fairly quickly, actually. This was the first page of my sketchbook. This is a brand new moleskin sketchbook, larger size than I have ever used, which it has been working out pretty good. So here we have some initial pages. A lot of these are from imagination, but here's where it really kicks off. Using Dr. Draw's method, this was inspired by him. He did an operating scene, and I wasn't looking at it when I did this, but I remembered the process. And so you can see a lot more of these kind of rectangle guys and boxy construction showing up more and more as we go through the sketchbook here. And while squares may not be for everyone, I think squares can be fun. Initially I had a lot of issues with stiff drawings with squares, but I think I'm starting to finally figure out how we can make these pretty dynamic. So here we have a few more drawings, a few more multiple characters and scenes, trying to work out some perspective there, a few more drawings from imagination with varying degrees of success. These characters here were from J.H. Stonehouse. Really cool characters. Copied those. This one was from imagination, so that one worked out pretty good. More characters, more scenes. I have so much fun doing these little scenes, and they pop up all through. Along with that, doing some studies of actual clothes, actual surgeries, and how that actually turns out like that. This was an initial try at using a more boxy structure and then trying to put the human anatomy over it. Um, I was surprised that that turned out pretty good, actually. A few more studies. Was trying some blobby forms down here, varying degree of success. I think there's something to it, but I didn't stick with that. This one was from Art What Guy. Really like how his drawings turn out. Considering maybe I should take a course from him or something like that. It's a pretty cool drawing. This is where things really started turning around for me. I really like how that scene turned out. Um, yeah, I like the whole setup, like the shoes that I drew. This is all from imagination. This whole page from imagination, and you're gonna see these guys popping up more and more. Don't mind the fails on the other page. Just look at the good stuff. Okay, just look at the good stuff. This page here, a few more sketches. You may have seen a video about this one. This guy, the classic book behind the book. Huh? The classic book behind the book. Nobody knows about that. Here we have trying to put a few more characters all into perspective with varying degrees of success. It takes practice. so, so once you figure it out, I mean, it's not like it just sticks. Maybe for some of you it does. Um, it takes practice. These were some drawings from reference from when we went to Mackinac Island, Michigan State Park. Um, it's just pretty cool. If you don't know, they only no motorized vehicles allowed there, except on the golf course. They allow they allow golf carts on the golf course, but nowhere else. All right, but that turned out cool. Some reference drawings here, and you can see me starting to use this kind of box structure here, which you will see um, carried over. But like, hey, that's a great way to kind of construct things, and it works out well. These were a few more drawings. I don't remember where this was initially referenced from. Um, use it. I referenced this picture here and that one there, and then Ended up doing a whole thing on World Cup FIFA um, clips. So basically, I basically watched the videos and kind of clipped out different scenes to get some action poses and just did that. Did those. These weren't really constructed, more like outlined. Maybe I don't know. This is kind of like a sketching thing, so not really constructing, kind of drawing from observation. I really like how the page turned out. Um, what more can I say there? Okay, here I now I was back after doing all of this reference work. I was like, okay, it's time to get back to the real deal, which is drawing from imagination. That's my goal. Good to start building up my reference library, those stuff, but here's the real deal. And hopped back in with more squares. And really like how some of these scenes turned out. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna have to really do a deep dive into these squares and boxes because they seem to be working for me. They seem to be working for me better than anything else I have tried, and I'm able to get the character's feet on the floor, get them positioned correctly. I need to be using more squares. Pretty cool scene. I really like how that one turned out. You may watch the video on it. And so we continued on some reference work, doing this one, doing a kind of repetition of it, doing more straight lines. That's also something I'm working on, trying to get more straights into my drawings. I tend to use a lot of curves and not enough like just hard straight lines. So something I'm working on because it does add a certain look to your drawing. Um, that works out pretty well. It's the drawing of part of our living room. Just kind of do a drawing from life. It's not as hard as I thought it would be, or maybe with all the practice, I'm getting better at it, but not bad. Um, and here was a page. Proco did a thing on shapes, and after doing this page, I was like, you know what? I'm going in. I'm going in. I'm going back to construction, and I'm finally going to figure this out for myself. So started back some construction here. These were actually pretty cool. These skulls. But overall, I just found this to be too complicated to actually use as a structure. And so I was back off searching for something else again. These were just from reference. Um, and it came back to boxes, really. Came back to boxes. This was another sketch approach, which I have a slightly different method for sketching. If you watch the video with this one, you'll see kind of how I do it. Still using kind of primitive shapes, but just basically sketching out the entire envelope of the picture and then kind of slowly filling it in with more and more details. So this is kind of really going from the general to the more specific. Then of course, coming back to more boxy structures, trying to understand what's really going on, and it it just works for me. Um, Boxes may not work for you, but when it comes to perspective, it really works for me. And I have seen Kim Jong Ji use a lot of in a lot of his demonstrations. He uses a lot of boxy construction to demonstrate how he's thinking about things, and hey, maybe there's something to that. Uh, these were kind of off that site. Pose Maniacs. If you've never used it, you can get a pose. You can rotate it however you want to, choose different camera angles. It's pretty cool. And it shows all the anatomy, so it's nice. Yeah, squares can be fun too. I mean, this was inspired by another Dr. Draw one. Again, not looking at it while I did this, but I remembered how it looked, and I did my own version of that. These guys are rocking out. Um, this guy kind of passed out down here. We have some super fans. Super fan. But I really like how this turned out. And you're gonna see more of this type of thing. But you'll probably see more of it in the future as well. So more in this sketchbook, but more in the future as well. And then I was like, okay, I'm really catching on to these rectangle guys and gals. Can you say gals? Um, and I was like, okay, now I need to start really moving into how can I do this with more human figures. So these were from reference, but I tried to start using the more boxy construction. I was thinking along these lines, but I think I'm going to bypass this phase and go straight to a more humanoid construction using the boxes that you'll see a little later on here. Some of these were from Kim's drawings that I found fascinating. So here we go. So this is the kind of structure that I started to land on for my final construction. Here you see again some varying um, variations of what I came to, but in the end, I think this type of structure is really what I'm going to be using. So you're going to see this kind of amped up more and more with these type of scenes here. If you had arms, you would catch me, right? I thought this one came out really stiff. So, what, supposed to be old or something? I don't know. References from Kim, uh, trying to figure out how he actually does his folds. I think it's a lot of um, chaotic type movements. I don't think it's as structured as we might think. So I did it kind of chaotically as well, following his process, and it turned out okay. It seems he isn't going for perfect. He's going for good enough. And then when you add in a lot of detail on top of it, like it looks great. It looks great. I think it's really the detail that's selling it. So you get everything good enough, and then you throw a bunch of detail at it, and it just lifts it really well. This was from reference. Um, Blanking on who the guy is right now, but a popular guitar player. He has a YouTube channel. I went back and took this image, boxified it. Ashley B. Some really cool um, figures, a lot of motion. Copied some of that. I do whatever interests me. And here we go now. I think I was now sold on the box type construction. If you've never done some of these, like turnarounds, I think this may have been my first real time doing a go at it. But after doing this, I actually felt a lot more confident doing something like this. Um, I also have found that putting in the horizon line tends to get me closer to what I actually want to achieve, right? Getting in the horizon line really helps in placing the figures in place. I think that turned out well as well. And then jumped into some more construction stuff. These feet didn't turn out quite as I wanted to. I didn't really know what was going on there, so kind of did some heel studies. Came up with something like that. Doing some head studies, and then did this one kind of all blocked up. This is kind of the construction that I've been using lately, where the kind of rib cage, chest area goes right into the abdomen, and then you have the pelvis underneath. And of course, I've been using blocky heads because, you know, squares can be fun too. And here we go, really diving into a lot of gesture work. And I found that the construction still held together. You can probably see my construction lines here. I really like how this one turned out. There were some issues with this one, some issues with this one as well, but the construction still held together. Like I could use the construction, the boxy construction, to still come out with a character that made sense. And then I even pushed that more down here with this construction. And as you can see, it's still very boxy, but making it just slightly organic in the way I use the shapes, but they're still boxes. and they seem to work really well for me. I can still get good gestures out of them. They're not stiff at all, and yeah, it works. And of course, I keep on coming back to these fun scenes. Eventually, what I want to be doing is to be able to use this type of construction to do in a scene like this. All right. When I can do that, I'm going to be, I'm going to be starting to be on my way here, and I'm having fun with this, and this is exciting for me. You will probably see some of this transition going on, trying to do that pretty soon. But I just like doing these rectangle guys because they're super fun, and um, they are I don't want to say easy yet, but it's a lot easier. It's almost like you don't have to pay attention too much to what you're doing. You kind of sketch it out. And this one I kind of erased a lot of the pencil lines and kind of cleaned it up a bit, but really cool. I think this is the last page here. So even after all that, I wanted to show this last page, right? Because even after all of that kind of nice, clean construction work that you see here, and even some of the horses that I did here, I tried to do this other horse, and it just fell apart, right? And I'm laughing because it kind of looks kind of goofy, right? But what you need to know is that yeah, don't get discouraged when you do something good and then the next thing you do turns out really weird, right? Don't let that get you down because it's going to happen, right? And the only reason you may not see more of this is because some of it I see going wrong and I erase it and I fix it in the really sketch portion before. Um, but this kind of thing happens a lot, right? This happens a lot. So this gesture here I did from imagination. It's similar to some of the poses from before, but I did this using the same construction, came over it with the ink lines, and then erased all of the pencil lines, all the construction underneath it. And it still turns out really well. Still holds up. After doing this, I was like, okay, I need to figure out how horses actually look. But anyway, that's it for today. Hey, squares can be fun too, and I'm going to be diving into this, getting more of my humanoid structures. I'm going to be working to get them into something like this. Eventually, you'll see it. Making progress down the road to Kim Jong-ji. I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for joining. Thanks for sharing. And I'm glad to have you all on this journey with me.